Good morning.
How are you?
I'm very well. Yourself?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Bit tired after getting over the flu and feeling a bit rubbish.
Yeah, you have been a bit unwell, haven't you?
But there's lots of people who've been unwell, really.
Yeah. I think so. I think it's the change in the wet weather, isn't it? It's just got a bit rubbishy.
And the kids have gone back to school, so they're all kind of brewing all those bugs that ordinarily would be hidden away, and now they're back, aren't they?
They are. So today we're going to talk about these cards that we had made.
I'm doing the back, and there's the front.
So, do you want to talk about these cards and what they are,
and the association, and all of that?
All of that.
So, as you are probably aware, I haven't said this out loud to anybody. I'm sure I've aired it either. Is that last year our son took his life, really, and which was devastating to us as a family. And we live in a small community, as you know, and similarly to you, we live in the countryside, and there's a high percentage of people who take their own lives because they feel that they can't cope with life on a day-to-day basis, and also in isolation. They feel very isolated. And myself and Rob decided that we wanted to do something. Primarily, Rob said, I want to do something, and I said I would like to do something too. And then the trustees from the charity agreed that it was all a really good idea that we do these cards. And basically, they're about suggesting that people can speak and who the options are, and so now we're currently distributing them to whoever wants them in our area. We've already given out quite a substantial amount.
We have. We've got a large number, haven't we, to go out. And what's really good is they've got contact details on the back.
Not just for local either. They're contact details nationally as well.
Nationwide, yeah. There's a telephone number. There's a number you can text, and there's also a website address. So there's lots of different ways people can get in touch to seek help, and for people to listen.
And I think what's interesting for me is, and I'm talking to you as a bloke, and I know we were just talking before we started doing the podcast. You and I can talk for England. It's like you and I don't have a problem talking, and you know that you can talk to me about anything, and I feel that you would, and I feel similarly to you. But as a man, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, as a man, is it harder to kind of admit that you're struggling?
I think society sort of suggests that it should be harder. So possibly, yeah. I think it probably dates back to sort of that whole, men are the providers and the carers for everyone else in their family. But I think that role is sort of changing a little bit now. So maybe that's why that view is changing as well.
But is it changing, or has it changed? Because it's that the provider is not traditionally the male in the family anymore. It is both.
Yeah.
That's changed a lot. But is it the image, the male image?
Possibly. Yeah, quite possibly.
Those roles that we were established. It's the image that the man is still back. Men don't cry. Men don't have sad stories. Men don't have problems. They're the resolvers. They can resolve the problem.
I think there probably is an element of that for sure. But I think it doesn't matter whether you're man, woman, or other. I think it's very easy to get wrapped up in your own problems, and perhaps feel a bit trapped about who you can talk to, or can I talk about a problem that's going on?
And okay, who and can, I think, is a real interesting thing, because it's like who sets an agenda for a conversation compared to who decides what we talk about on a day-to-day basis. Who decides whether you can talk about your mental health, or whether you can talk about your dog or your cat or your kids or your struggles at work. And I know that, like, the country and as a nation, we're trying to mental health awareness in the forefront. But a lot of it is very much token gesture.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm being very controversial about this, but I think part of that is because most people won't admit that they've experienced a mental health problem. And so therefore they don't see the importance and the value of having help and support from other people. So you're in there's a trap there, really. I don't want to admit that I'm been struggling because actually that might pose a problem in my workplace.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And I think a lot of people do that. And they struggle with, I think another way to phrase it is where to start. It's who do they go to? It's how do they start that conversation? I think that's probably where it kind of stems back to.
I was approached the other day. In fact, it wasn't me. It was Dave that was approached the other day from a waste company. And what they've done is they've decided to have like nominated people in the area who can support people in their industry.
That's very good.
With mental health. Lots of organisations have done that. But one of the things they've asked people who would volunteer or who will do it and who they've nominated to do that. But it's like you've also got to give people time to do that. And you've got to give them training.
Mm-hmm.
And whilst they might have training, they're going to have training from somebody. It's a day's training or a 2-day training course. That doesn't equip them to manage somebody's mental health. What that does is it gives them an opportunity to actually say, oh, you're struggling. How can I help you?
Yeah.
It doesn't actually give them the kind of information how to go forward. So I've given them loads of signposting stuff so that they know what facilities are in the area so they can get people support. But I think sometimes it's a tick box thing rather than this is important. And actually, if you look at the amount of people that have lost their lives that you've invested in, and actually you as a company have had to deal with the trauma of losing a member of staff to suicide or to mental health or whatever those circumstances are, is quite big. It's a lot of not only cash, but emotional cash, if that makes sense. And I think sometimes that's where it's always a kind of grey area. In my job, I've always made sure that our staff get at least 30 to 50 minutes every month, one-to-one support. On a day-to-day basis, they have group support every single day. What we do for a living is tough. And so therefore, you need to make sure that you do that, it's done properly, but also that you have an open door policy. How many organisations have open door policies? And people feel comfortable enough to be able to go into that open door policy. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally get you. And I think the advent of COVID and remote working, I think the problem probably got worse.
Yeah.
Because your industry that you professionally work in is an industry that's never really worked from home. They're on site, whereas you only got to look at a lot of industry now where people work from home. They perhaps don't see their co-workers from 1 month to the next, let alone every day or several times a week. And I think that's just going to exacerbate potential problems because you're not able to go and speak with your co-workers about a possible issue that you're having. You're not having that social interaction. A good friend of mine, he goes into the office twice a month, which is not a lot of time, and he absolutely hates it. He always comes up with some sort of excuse not to go in. Car's in for an MOT, my car's broken down, I'm not feeling very well today, blah blah blah, because he doesn't like going in. However, I think he forgets sometimes that actually you should go in because it's good for your social skills, it's good for collaborating and all of these things. When you're sat at home in isolation, you're not getting any of that. But it's not just about the mental health side of it, it's also looking at your job progression. You're not learning from your co-workers as much.
I agree.
You're not talking about how to solve problems as well. Okay, yeah, you can chat, yeah, you can have a call, a Teams call, but it's not the same as sitting next to somebody going, I've got this problem, what do you think? Or, I'm having this issue or whatever. And it'd be interesting to see how that impacts mental health over a longer period of time. We don't know yet. COVID was only 4 years ago. 4 years ago. But what's it going to be like in 10 years' time when there are even more people working from home, more people in isolation? What is that going to do to mental health? We already know it's increasing, and services like our charity are under pressure. We're seeing significantly more people than we were 5 years ago.
Gosh, yeah.
And I think other services are feeling the same stretch and demand.
I don't think it's just adults, is it?
No,
It's young
not.
people as well that are feeling that, because the parents are feeling it, and then they're transferring those emotions into the children, and then before you know it, your children are affected by it.
Yeah.
But coming back to that point about not wanting to go into the office, and it's having that, the oracle, do you know what I'm saying? You hear yourself talk, you hear other people speak, you're then sharing knowledge, but you're also sharing your emotional journey at the same time.
Yeah.
They just turn around and say, oh God, that was terrible, or I find that really difficult. You wouldn't say that necessarily in a Zoom call.
No, you wouldn't. No, because Zoom calls are very different to sitting around a table or sitting next to somebody in the office having a conversation. They're very rushed, I think is probably a good word. Everyone wants to get off the Zoom call. Yeah. No one ever wants to sit there for ages chatting.
And looking at yourself. Because that's the other thing.
Yeah, people look at yourself more than you look at who you're having the call with. Yeah, no, I agree.
And I think as a woman, I don't know if it's any worse for a man than it is for a woman, but certainly for myself, I get quite uncomfortable looking at myself. I mean, I'm used to it and I'm okay with it, but I always, before it, the people come up on the screen, I think, oh, is my fringe all right? Is my hair all right? Oh God, is the double chin growing anymore? I have to go through all of that before I can actually take the call and feel comfortable with my visuals before I even start. And somebody's got I don't know, if somebody's got a challenge, and you've got a wonky eye that day, or you've got a great big spot on the end of your nose, or it is really hard because you're actually looking at yourself talking, and it's not comfortable.
No, exactly. That's it. We've also got to look at what the effect is on young people. It was in the news this week about, exams are still being sort of toned down as a result of COVID, because young people are still struggling with the after effects of that. There's lots of children that, never went back to school after COVID. But again, what is that impact on society, the impact on employers over the next 10, 20, 30 years? It's going to be massive.
But also the impact, I was in hospital last week, and it was a very interesting scenario because I said to them, do I need to wear a mask? Because I've got an illness that makes me quite vulnerable. And they said, no, there's no COVID here. There's no COVID here. And then in the next breath, the people that would work the day before on the day shift came in on the day shift. And there was a young man came in who was unwell, and they COVID tested him immediately. They didn't COVID test me. And they COVID tested him immediately. And she said, oh, we had COVID on the ward yesterday, which made me anxious because I know if there's something going, I catch it. And I thought, everything that you do, like if somebody gives me a hug and they've got a cold, I feel uncomfortable because don't come near me if you've got a cold or a cough or whatever. If you're going to, stay over in the other side of the room, please, because I actually don't need to catch another bug. And it's all of those things that COVID has brought, an anxiety that I've never really had. I've had it a little bit, but it's exacerbated it. So if you think about somebody that suffered from anxiety anyway, and then the risk of some awful illness, and it's not just COVID, it's the flu, it's sickness, diarrhea, it's all of those things. It exacerbates that anxiety. And then the thought of having to go into work once a month in the office, because I've been at home in the comfort of my own home and that coziness and the security of it, it's quite a trauma.
Yeah, I imagine it probably is. But of course, because you're only going in, if that person's only going in once a month, twice a month, whatever it is, all that ends up being is, you end up with a week or 2 weeks of anxiety leading up to it. And it kind of just gets worse every time.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, if you pushed yourself and went in once a week, you'd probably feel better about then going once a fortnight, once a month, whatever it is.
But it's a bit like if you go out, if you're working from home all the time, and I think Will has this brilliant, and he does it, I don't do it. I never feel the need to do it, but he works from home the large proportion of the time. But when he's not in the studio, he will go to the local pub and sit there and have a Coke or a whatever he's going to have, and just sit there and work.
Mm-hmm.
And he uses their internet. It's not that he hasn't got internet. He has. It's just so it breaks up that pattern of isolation, because he's got an isolated job.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he's got a team around him, he doesn't see them because they're all in different countries and around the world. But it's so important, I think, to do that. We don't necessarily have that culture in the countryside.
No, we don't. But it's also about routine, isn't it? If you work from home and you start work at 9 o'clock in the morning, what's stopping you getting out of bed at 5 to 9 and just sitting in front of your laptop or computer or whatever and just getting on with it? Whereas if you have to go into the office, you have got to get up early, but you've also got to do all the important things like shower and brush your teeth and have your breakfast and walk the dog and all of those things that are part of routine, part of everyday life. They're a bit mundane. Yeah, you don't want to do it every day, but actually they're so much better for your health overall and your well-being that I think sometimes we forget that.
Yeah, I agree.
Laziness is a lovely option, but yeah.
It does. And when you've been ill as well, I mean, I know myself, like at the weekend, I went and did the animals. And then it sounds really pathetic, but for 2 weeks, I haven't really been able to get out of bed virtually. I have, because I've made myself go down and sit in the lounge. And even if I'm just sitting in the lounge watching crap on telly or whatever, it's better than staying in my bed all day. But I can see how people just don't want to do anything then.
Yeah.
You just don't want that. You lose the motivation. And I think then you lose the motivation to talk to people.
Yes.
And then when you're feeling you're lacking motivation, and then there's a problem going on at home, you're having difficulties in your marriage, or you're having difficulties with your boss, or you're having difficulties with your children, and very often embarrassment prevents you from talking about it. Your kids being a pain in the bum, and you don't want to talk about that. You don't want to admit that your child could possibly behave in that manner, if you see what I'm saying. It's embarrassing. So then you close yourself down.
Yeah.
You close yourself down to your boss because you don't want them to know that you're struggling, because you don't want them to sack you. You close yourself down to the community because actually you don't want them to know. And before you know it, you're in that isolated world, which leads a lot of people to making decisions thinking there's no way out.
Exactly, that's it. And I think that circles back to the reason we've had these cards made and printed, is to try and encourage people to talk, encourage people to reach out if they're in a difficult position or just want some support, and just acts as a reminder. And if you have one of these cards, it also might not just be for you. It might be someone you come across, a friend, a relative, someone in the street that you think they might need one of these. And that's kind of why we've done it, is to kind of just promote those options of how you can talk to people.
Well, we get funds from the local beer festival. They give us money. Wedmore Beer Festival give us money every year. They've been very, very generous with us. I took a box of the cards down to them, and I came back with half a dozen left.
Amazing.
And people came up to, obviously people know that I'm linked to the charity, said, I've not taken it for me, but I've taken it for somebody else.
Yeah.
And I don't need it, but I know somebody that does need it. And I think that's your point.
Yeah.
It's not about, this isn't given to you because we think you're suicidal.
No.
This is given to you because you might know somebody that is at risk and might just need to talk. It doesn't mean to say you want to commit suicide, but actually that you just might need to talk.
Exactly.
And I think that's the purpose of this. Is not about that you've got 46,000 people that are going to go out and commit suicide, but it's actually more about the fact you might have 46,000 people out there that actually need to talk.
Yeah.
I'm going off piste slightly, but I think that also links to our coffee and chats that we do, because we had our trustees meeting last night, and one of the things that came up was about, is it cost effective, some of the coffee and chats that we do. And I remember when I first started doing the Burnham-on-Sea coffee and chat, and I was literally dragging people off the streets to come in. Like people just didn't attend, it wasn't well received, it was, and I just thought, persevere. And that's what, and basically now we've got an incredibly successful coffee and chat in Burnham last Saturday of every month. apart from in October because the food festivals. But do you know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's brilliant. The room is full. You can't get anybody else in there. It's rammed, right? But the conversation was about, actually, should we be doing another one that we do, the one in Wedmore? We don't get very many people there. And it's like, but we get 2 people. And those 2 people, that might save their life.
Exactly. It might be their only opportunity to get out of their home, to meet
Yeah.
people, to talk, to just, be in a different environment. So, yeah, absolutely, it should continue.
But that also comes back to that bit which we've talked about being in the office and not being in the office, because it's like our coffee and chats aren't just for people that are falling apart at the seams.
No, not at all.
And I think sometimes you can give back as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's that giving back that can be sometimes more important than it can be going there, because it might be that you might help somebody else. And I think very often people think, oh, that's not for me because there's nothing wrong with me. Actually, if anything, it is for you, so you can help other people.
Exactly. Yeah. No,
and they feel supported in their own communities.
Yeah.
And the one in Bridgewater, we've got 2 that run on Bridgewater, and we found that they've been really valuable to people. People take their crafts.
Really? That's really good.
They take their knitting or sewing or sticking or whatever it is they choose to do. They've been started to share it as a little community, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's a really nice, but it also, when you're sat there with a set of knitting needles, it deflects from you, if you see what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It takes pressure off you, I think, to
Yeah.
talk. You can talk, but you're talking about
what you're doing,
but you're still connecting, if you see what I'm saying. And I think that's the joy of going into the office, is you're connecting with other human beings. Mm-hmm. And we are not, as humans, we should never be in isolation. We're a pack. We're pack animals.
We are, exactly. And it's really important to do that. So, yeah.
How do you find working? Because obviously you've got your own business.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you work with people, but you're still the boss.
Yeah.
How do you ever get stuck in that?
I think it's a learning. There's always learning from sort of managing people. I don't think I'll ever be perfect. I think anyone ever can be perfect. So yeah, it can be hard. I mean, I work with a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people every day. I don't see people every day, but whilst I sort of work in isolation, actually I do see people every day. Some days I'm a bit peopled out.
Yeah.
I get home and I'm like, I just don't want to talk to anyone anymore. Because it's just been one of those days where your phone's not stopped ringing.
Yeah.
There's days like that, and there's days where I think I really like to be in isolation. But what's funny is when I have a day where I'm not going out anywhere, I haven't got any meetings planned, I'm just working from home, by probably 11 o'clock in the morning,
you're on the phone to me.
I have to get out of the house. Yeah. Like, I need to go and do something, even if that's just go take the dog a walk or go into town and get a coffee or whatever it is. I don't like not going out. It's almost like a love-hate relationship, because it's nice having a day where you've not got to get in the car and drive somewhere or go and see somebody, but yeah, it can be a bit of a pain at the same time.
So what my brain went somewhere else around hobbies and things like that. So while I was sick, I thought, I've got to do something.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't do a lot, to be truthful, but as I started coming out of it, I've got a dress that I wanted to, whilst we were talking about it before, and I've just started doing it. I've used my sewing machine to take up Will's trousers the other day, but that kind of inspired me to think, oh, do you know what? I might just do a bit more sewing. I used to make clothes. I did everything. I loved it.
Yeah.
And then I stopped. I don't know why I stopped, but I just stopped. So in a sense, I've got lots of hobbies. So horses, I've got dogs, I can sew, I can do lots of different things. I like painting, I like things like that. But it's like, I'm not good at any of them, by the way, but I like to.
Got your violin as well.
Oh yeah, so I'm a violin lessons again, which is quite exciting. I just had one this morning, and I've got a really nice instructor. I'm really pleased. She's great.
That's good.
But do you have hobbies? I wonder if it is a generation through thing, and are they hobbies in isolation again?
I think it's a mixture. I have a mixture of hobbies that I I do. I feel like I'm always on the go, so I don't know if you can class them as hobbies, but I really enjoy reading.
Yeah.
But I don't do it enough. Just because I just come back from holiday and I read every day, and that was really good. But I've not picked up a book since I got back,
Yeah.
which is really bad. That's because I'm just, at the end of the day, I'm exhausted. I can't then sit and read a book because
Yeah.
my mind and my eyes are just too tired. You end up putting the telly on, but I like reading. I've got a classic car that I do stuff to occasionally when it's not raining. I like helping other people with their cars, which is fun. I've got a dog. I've got fish, which I look after. Do I have any other hobbies? I'm not sure. I think there's the stuff that I do, but I don't know if I'd class it as a hobby.
But do you think that can create a gap if you have nothing in between work and home?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've worked in IT for a long time, and people always used to say to me, "You a gamer? Do you like gaming?" And I've always said it's the one thing that I've never done. I've never been into gaming, whether that's on the PC or whether it's like an Xbox or a PlayStation or that. I've never really been into gaming. I think because I've been on a computer all day, or I was on the computer all day, to then come home and sit in front of another screen, I never felt like that was something I wanted to do. I always wanted to do something different that wasn't necessarily on a screen. So yeah, I've never been like that. Whereas I've got friends that, they work in IT, but then they also absolutely love gaming. So they're in front of a screen 16, 18 hours a day. I can't think of anything worse.
No, I can't think of anything worse either. But I suppose the thing about having hobbies, and that's another interface with other people, if you're doing stuff that actually does integrate. It's like when I ride, I go out and meet other people riding and stuff like that. So that's something to do. And I have a group of friends that know me around horses, and then I have a couple of people that know us around the dogs, and then I have other people that I do like. I suppose the charities a hobby. I don't get paid for it, neither do you, but it's like that kind of stuff. And then I have another group of friends that I do other things with. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's like, but my life's quite busy in that sense, probably too busy sometimes. And then on top of that, I've got work and various other bits and pieces too. But it's like, if you don't have that, and all you have is you go to work every day, or you work from home every day, and that's your routine, and then you've just got your family, and then your children's hobbies become your hobbies, and then your wife's hobbies or your husband's hobbies become their hobbies. Do you lose yourself in that? Do you become, you kind of get morph into?
Yeah, I think you probably end up becoming a bit mixed together. And again, I've seen it in other people's lives where they pick up on their partner's hobbies, and then as a result, their partner almost feels a bit uncomfortable about it because it's now not their thing. It's not their escape. It's not their thing they do. It's now a thing that they do together, which they really like to begin with. But once that honeymoon period's worn off, they're like, oh, well, I want to go and do that myself, or I want to go and do something different. And then they want to cut. And I think everyone's different, but I don't know. Yeah, everyone's different.
I know Dave never used to ride, and then he started. Well, he rode obviously on and off for years because his various girlfriends had horses. And then when I started riding and then started doing other things, and he came along and he loved it and stuff like that. And it's always been something nice that we've done together. But I know that he only likes certain aspects of the horse. I'll do any of it. I'm quite happy to plod around. I'm quite happy to do schooling and all that kind of stuff in an arena, whereas he'd rather not bother. He'd rather just be galloping around the countryside and jumping hedges and stuff like that. And that's okay. But sometimes, like you were just saying, I feel sad that he doesn't want to come out with me for a ride sometimes. And then I feel if I put him under pressure, I don't want to put him under pressure. I want to do it because he wants to do it. So it can create a conflict.
It can, for sure. Yeah. And I've seen that in other people, for sure. And that's what happens. And then you don't enjoy your hobby as much. Because you feel uncomfortable. And if you really enjoy your hobby, and then your partner or friend or whatever comes with you, and you see them not enjoying it as much, you then sort of feel bad about your own hobby, I
Well, it
think.
almost contaminates it,
It
doesn't it? It's
does,
like
yeah.
a bit of oil in a bowl of water type thing. It kind of permeates out, doesn't it, really? And I think
Exactly.
that's, no, I
That's
agree
it.
with you.
I'm liking it to skiing. I love skiing. Absolutely love skiing. And I this year in February, I think it was, we went to Italy. It was a small group of us, and it was probably the worst experience I've ever had. And I love skiing, but it was the worst experience. The hotel wasn't the best. The resort wasn't very good. The cars got stuck in the snow. It was like one thing after the other that just became painful. And the friends that I were with, they were all like, oh, I just hate this. I don't think I ever want to go skiing again, blah, blah, blah. And I just think, I really like skiing. I can't let this experience affect my overall experience. And I have, I'm looking forward to going next year at some point. But it is very easy, I think, for you to experience things with other people and almost write them off because you've had one bad experience.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I'm not a great traveller, so I like my home. I like being at home. If I didn't get on another aeroplane in my life, it wouldn't bother me. But I go because Dave likes travelling.
Yeah.
And that bit where you say, I don't want to contaminate that for him. I want him to go, like, you guys all went to India last year, and it was absolutely brilliant. I was really glad that you went. But I had no desire to come with you.
No.
I loved seeing the photographs. I loved seeing the food. I loved hearing the stories, but I've got no desire to go. And we were talking about going to Argentina and places like that. And whilst I'd love to go for the riding, if I went riding, that would be my kind of thing. But I'd get anxious. I know I'd be anxious. Like Will said, it's not the best place to go, really, but it can be quite unsafe in the things that we'd like to do. So I won't go. But if Dave wants to go, and if Wills is out there working, then he can go with him, and then they're together.
Yeah, they
and
can have a nice time.
And you'll probably drag yourself around as well. But it's that thing. But I don't want to ruin it for somebody else.
No,
I want it to be a good experience. I don't want Dave to think, oh God, I've got to make it nice for Angie. In the same way as I don't want Dave to feel that way about riding. I want him to enjoy it. So he'll go, well, let's go off to cross country. And I think, I don't want to go today, but I'm going to go.
Yeah.
I'll go for him. And I think that's the bit with relationships, isn't it? You do things.
Give and take. Yeah. I think also it's sometimes, you can't decide you want to do something and you like, I don't know, I really want to go because I can't be bothered. And I know I've done that a lot. And quite often they'll turn into the best days. Yeah. They'll turn into the absolute best days, the best experiences, because my, what's the word? My assumption is it's going to be a bad experience, but actually it ends up being really good. And I've had it the other way around as well, where I think that's going to be a really good day. And then it's a terrible day because I've almost bigged it up a bit too much. Yeah.
I don't get excited about things.
It's funny actually because Will said that to me a number of times, doesn't it? Get excited about things, and I find that really odd because I get excited about things. I look forward to things, but I'm also not a future planner. I don't really book stuff in advance. The holiday I've just gone on was probably the furthest away thing I've ever booked.
Yeah, you did book that quite a lot in advance.
Yeah, I think we booked that in like March or April or I can't remember, but it was a long time ago. Whereas I've been known to book things for tomorrow. Yeah. Literally, I'm going on holiday tomorrow. Yeah. However, once I booked a holiday at about midnight to be at the airport before 4 a.m.
Dave and I have done that as well.
And it's great. But yeah, I don't tend to book things in advance. But when I do look forward to them. I do look forward to them and get excited about them.
I don't know why I don't. I just think, oh, well, if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. I kind of keep it very much in the day, in the moment, very much in the moment.
Yeah.
And I can plan, and I plan things, but I don't live it, if you see. I don't think, oh, we're going away for a couple of days next week. And it's like, if anything, it's a pain in the bum because I've got to rearrange things. I've got to let people down.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And that's the bit that I find quite hard is if I'm not doing what I would ordinarily do, I feel like I'm letting people down. So
do you like packing?
I hate it.
Are you one of those people that unpacks when you get to the hotel as well?
I hate unpacking is the word, because I've always hated unpacking. And so Dave generally unpacks for me.
Yeah.
But I'm quite, when we go away, I go, right, this is the dirty washing bag. This is where everything. So when we get home, it literally just comes out and I can wash it.
Yeah.
Like that. I like to be organised.
I'm a bit like that. I don't understand people that go on holiday and then spend an hour when they arrive unpacking, and then they spend 2 hours at the end of their holiday packing to leave. Like, what is the point of that? Surely you pack your suitcase in a way that you can just open it.
Yeah.
And then everything's there ready to grab. And then, like you said, you've got a bag for all your dirty washing or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I'm so bad, in fact, that I got home when did I get home? I got home on last Wednesday. So it's a week tomorrow and I've still not unpacked. The bag is still literally just got out of the car. It's in the hallway. I've not got anything out of it still.
Yeah, but your circumstances are different.
My circumstances are different.
I'm
living in a building site. So yeah, it doesn't matter where I put it, it's just going to get dirty and grubby. So
I do feel that it is I'm a little bag person.
Yeah.
I can go on holiday for 3 weeks with a small bag.
Yeah.
I do not need to take a big suitcase. I'm quite happy to wear the same trainers every day and a pair of flip-flops.
Yeah.
That's it. Depending on what the holiday is. If I go on a riding holiday, it's a bit different because I like to take my own hat and I like to take my own boots. But I'll wear short boots and chaps rather than wear long boots. I normally always wear long boots. But other than that, there's things called washing machines if I needed anything. Yeah. And there's shops where I could go and buy something if I absolutely needed to. I cannot be bothered. Cannot be bothered with all of that. It would drive me mad. But also, I think holidays, the pressure that society put on you to be, and I think that doesn't help for people, like to provide enough money that you can afford a holiday. I went on abroad. As a child, I never went abroad. I never went on holiday. I went to the Lake District once with the school for a couple of days, and it rained the whole time. But it was away from family home, which was lovely. But I didn't do holidays. We didn't do holidays. Our grandchildren go on holiday. Our daughter's children go on holiday every 6 weeks, or indeed every 4 weeks, because they go away for a long weekend somewhere. And it's like, this is crazy. It's not. Do you know what I'm saying? I just didn't, and we didn't have the money, and so it's not in my frame of reference. But I think people feel the pressure to do things like that, to go on holiday.
They do, yeah.
To have a nice car on the drive, to kids go to every kids club that they want to go to. You know, the wife has a beautiful diamond ring on her finger, and blah 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 blah, and you know they are all wearing the latest top or whatever it is. Yeah. I think there's pressure, and I think that doesn't help people's mental health.
No, it doesn't. No, absolutely. So circling back to these cards then, so if anyone wants a box of them or a handful of them,
email info@somewherehousesomerset.org.
Yep. Or they can contact us on social media.
Yeah.
Wherever. And if you see them out and about, please promote them, grab them, do whatever you want to do, really.
Yeah. Do it. Let's just hope it helps one person. It helps one person. That's all it needs to do. It's worth every single penny. Chasing around. And if anybody would like to distribute them for us, woohoo.
Yeah, if you work in a
work or come and help the charity.
Yeah, please. Or you want to put them in your shop, your builder's merchant, your whatever, contact us.
Saying that, actually, because the local barber in Burnham, everybody that comes in and has their haircut is given one when they leave.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, and I think even if you give one to every single one of your customers, it's one, you might save a life by doing that.
Absolutely.
And I think that's just such an important part of, helping you.
Yeah, no, I agree. Perfect. Should we end it there?
Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you.